Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. What seemed like an ordinary day in Fairmont Crest began with a heavy, hard-to-explain feeling, as if something were quietly slipping out of the already fragile orbit of the relationships surrounding the D&D area. For Naomi, that feeling was more than a passing instinct. It was like a crushing weight pressing against her chest, the kind that had kept her from sleeping soundly for nights ever since Jacob left home for his secret assignment. Her husband's absence had left a cold emptiness in her life, but what truly frightened Naomi was not just the distance between them. It was the growing sense that Jacob was hiding something far bigger than the explanations he had given her, the flowers he sent, the brief messages, and the secret meeting in that plain hotel room a few days earlier should have reassured her. Yet instead they only deepened her unease. In that short moment, Naomi saw something in Jacob's eyes that she could not quite name. Something that looked both like a need to protect her and a quiet preparation to leave her forever. The thought that Jacob might be entangled in something far more dangerous than she had ever imagined made Naomi feel as though she were standing at the edge of a cliff. But her fear did not come only from Jacob. Deep down, Naomi knew that she was also keeping a secret that could shatter everything. The BRCA test result she had hidden for weeks was not just a health issue. It was a silent crisis, something she had not dared to reveal because she feared that if Jacob knew, he would have to carry yet another burden while already facing dangers of his own. Yet that very silence was beginning to turn into a burden of its own. Naomi understood that if Jacob learned the truth from someone else before she could tell him herself, he would not only feel hurt, but betrayed. And that could turn their secret reunion into the beginning of a deeper fracture in their marriage. Worse still, Naomi began to suspect that the hotel meeting might no longer have been a private moment between husband and wife at all. If someone had been watching Jacob, if someone had followed him to find her, then that reunion might have unknowingly become the starting point of a real nightmare. While Naomi was struggling with fears she could not even fully name, another battle was quietly taking shape in another corner of Fairmont Crest. Leslie had never been a woman willing to stand on the sidelines of this community's power game. To her, everything had always been a contest of status, pride, and influence. And as Chelsea and Madison's wedding began to take shape like a flawless Dupree family event, Leslie felt as though she herself were being pushed off the stage. Her excitement about Eva and Isaiah's future quickly turned into something far more dangerous. In Leslie's mind, if Chelsea and Madison were allowed to celebrate a grand, dazzling wedding first, then all eyes would remain on them forever, while Eva would be left as nothing more than a shadow standing behind. That was something Leslie could not tolerate. So instead of confronting them openly, she chose to sabotage things from within. Rumors were planted with care, small doubts were placed in exactly the right places, and plans began to be delayed in ways that felt too precise to be accidental. For Leslie, this was not just jealousy. It was a strategy to rewrite the balance of power in Fairmont Crest. Where she believed Eva deserved a place far higher than the Dupree family was willing to allow. But the dangerous game quickly became a double-edged sword. As signs of sabotage began to surface, Chelsea and Madison did not simply feel insulted. They began to question the true motive behind it all. What made everything even more tense was the fact that Isaiah was beginning to realize that his silence could make Eva believe that he, too, was being tempted by Leslie's ambition. If he failed to stand against the woman who had given Eva life, he risked losing the trust of both sides. And as those doubts spread, a wedding that had been built as a symbol of love slowly began to turn into a battlefield for family resentments that had been simmering for a long time. At the same time, another kind of conflict was exploding in Nicole's life, where she suddenly found herself at the center of a battle of ego between two men. Carlton and Kyle had already carried tension between them for some time, but Nicole's presence made everything far more personal. Each of them believed he had more right to stand beside her than the other, and that belief quickly hardened into angry competition. Their earlier clashes, from Ted's basketball game to the hospital hallways, had only been the beginning of an escalating confrontation. But what disturbed Nicole was not the rivalry itself. It was the humiliating realization that both men were reducing her into a prize in their war against one another. Nicole had always taken pride in her independence, and being dragged into a contest of male pride made her feel insulted far more than desired. Her anger began to rise when she realized that both Carlton and Kyle were so focused on defeating each other that they had forgotten the most important truth of all. She was the only one with the right to decide the course of her own life. Elsewhere in the city, Ashley was also enduring a day so bad that it made her feel as though everything around her were collapsing. At first, it seemed like nothing more than an ordinary workplace problem, but as the day went on, Ashley began to realize that the pressure crushing her was not coming from a simple professional mistake. She had seen something by accident, some detail she was never meant to notice, and now that detail was pulling her into a much larger web of trouble. The most frightening part was the growing realization that the problems at work might not be a coincidence at all. If the secrets she had stumbled upon were connected to powerful people in Fairmont Crest, then being cornered at work might only be the first step in a larger effort to force her into silence. As all these pieces began to move at once, the larger picture across the DMV became more volatile than ever. One woman was terrified for her marriage, another was plotting to destroy someone else's dream in order to seize power for herself. Two men were tearing into each other out of wounded pride, and an accidental witness was being drawn into dangerous secrets she was never meant to touch. Each of them believed they were fighting for something justified, yet it was precisely those choices, driven by anger, fear, and desperation, that were pushing them closer to a disaster none of them would be able to control once it finally erupted. Thank you for watching the entire video. Please like and subscribe to the channel for the latest updates on the series.